Welcome back. Let's do some intermediate searching. Before we do that, let's just recall the search pipeline. We start out with a lot of data, and we sort of whittle it down until we get the data we want in the format we want. Remember, we start with a broad search, some sort of metadata search, like host equals my host, source type equals CSV, something like that. Then we can add in keywords, booleans, and fields, user equals B123, keywords like locked, boolean expressions like ors and ands, or nots. Then we can pipe that to some commands like count, sum, eval, and finally we can pipe that to some sort of table or visualization. The most popular transforming commands, and remember that happens there under the commands, so the second step, the most popular transforming commands are top, rare, and stats. For the top command, the syntax is top and then a field. And remember, it comes after the pipe. And it returns the most common values of a given field, defaulting to 10, but you can combine it with a limit number if you want, if you need more than 10. It automatically builds a table with two other columns, count and percent. And it can be used with multiple fields, which makes top a very powerful command. So we could return the top value for a field organized by another field, for example. Here's an example of top user, if there was a field called user. It returns the top 10. It returns the top 10 users with the highest count, and then it tells you the percentage. Another important command is rare, and it takes the same syntax, but it's exactly opposite of top. It returns the bottom 10, the least common values of a field. And we still get the identical options to top, and it still returns those additional two columns of count and percent. Stats is an equally important command to understand. It has more of a complicated syntax, but it's still quite easy. The syntax is simply stats and then a function, and in parentheses the field you want to do that function on, and then the word by, and then the field you want to organize it by. So example of some functions, count, average, max, mean, medium, things you would normally use. So we could do, for example, stats, average, if there was a field called kbps, by host. Then it would tell us the average kilobits per second by host. We could do stats, count, and then failed logins, if that was a field, by user. That would give us the number of failed logins by user. Let's take a look at these three commands in action. Okay, back to our Splunk search head, and I simply typed in host equals homework so I could bring up all of our homework data. And now I want to show you top, rare, and stats and how to use those commands. So first of all, let's bring in some fields that we think could be interesting here. And I'm going to bring in state and user. Let's say that we want to know how many users are in each state. So wildcard on state, wildcard on user, and all of the data has both of those fields, so it's still going to have 2,000 rows. Now let's do a pipe, and the first thing I want to do is the stats command and show you how that works. Now remember what our goal is. We want to know how many users are in each state. And remember the syntax of the stats command is the keyword stats, then some sort of function, and then the field in parentheses, and then by which field you want. Okay, now we have a statistical table that has every state and the number of users in the state. But look what it named this field, count parentheses user. that's not going to be easy to work with. So let's do a simple as C user by state. Now we have two fields, state and C user, and we have each state listed with the number of users in that state. But that's still, it makes sense, but it could be organized a lot better. So let's do a simple sort command, and we'll do a minus sign, and then C user. And this is going to sort descending, so it's going to put the highest count at the top. Okay, now we have each state and the number of users. It's sorted by the number of users in each state. And this plays extremely well into a visualization. And in fact, Splunk's going to simply create that visualization for us if we click on the Visualization tab. There we have a graph, a column chart of every state and the number of users in each state. And that could be very useful. Now I want to show you how to use top and rare. And this statistic table and even these fields don't really play well into those commands. So let's go back to our base data set. And level was our error level. So let's do error level and state. Let's say that we want to know the top 10 states by error level. So we'll bring in a wildcard for state and level. And before we do top on this, let's narrow this down a little bit so we have to do less work. So let's say we want to only know about level equals critical, because the other ones are not quite as important to know about, and we want to know which states are throwing the most critical errors. So let's do top state by level. So this shows us the top 10 states that are throwing this critical level and the count of the critical error messages that we're getting and the percent. So that could be very useful. We could also put that in a visualization. We'd want to tweak it a little bit, but we'll show you how to do that in the visualization section of this course. Now let's do the same thing, but let's do rare, so we can see the states who are not causing a problem. So Arkansas, Delaware are not really causing a problem. Actually, that's Alaska. Sorry, Alaska, Delaware. Arkansas is not really causing a problem either. It's got 2. So again, we can see a visualization. Of course, we'd want to tweak it a little bit, but notice how it's almost opposite of the visualization for top. So that's top, rare, and stats. And I really thank you for joining me in this segment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next segment.